Hi, welcome to Season 3, Episode 6 of the Weekly Wave. I'm Matthew Lyons.
And I'm Aaron Johnson.
And our special guest here today is English teacher and head of the Yearbook Committee, Miss Erin Slayton. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming.
I just want to take a little side note. It is so good to be back. It has been a while since we're back in the studio. A lot of cancellations, and I'm so happy to talk to you about the yearbook. Do you want to start out with the opening question?
No, you go, by all means.
Okay. I'll just start out with it first. So, the yearbook, it's been obviously, I'll just tackle it off the bat. Like, COVID has really impacted all these clubs, especially with like the Greenwood Gazette, with us. How has it impacted the yearbook?
So, I think the biggest thing so far has been, so typically in a normal year, school pictures happen right in September, right? And particularly for this year's yearbook, that takes up about like between underclassmen portraits and senior photos, it's about like 50 pages. And obviously, as you guys know, we haven't taken school photos yet. So just, I guess in terms of deadlines has been our biggest thing so far, like just like kind of being behind on things because we're not sure like what sports are running and just getting the rosters and things like that. Or again, like not knowing when clubs are kind of after school to take their pictures and stuff like that. So I think the biggest struggle that we're having so far is just kind of staying on top of deadlines and knowing like the deadlines, for example, for underclassmen portraits. Like eventually those will happen. So we'll know, like we'll be able to check those off our to-do list eventually. But I think it's just kind of things compiling over time and being like, oh, we don't have that yet. We don't have that yet. Not to say that we are not making great progress because we are. But yeah, I think just in terms of like looking at something and seeing so many things still outstanding has been kind of like a pressure, but it's also kind of keeping the fire under our butts to keep going.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that we didn't have a picture day this year.
No.
So crazy. I know. And that's one of the things that it's like, it's a given, right?
Yeah.
But obviously needing people to come into the school, set up, whatnot, all of that has been kind of slow moving, but eventually, hopefully soon.
Do you guys have like a plan B if you don't get photos?
So the plan A is that they're happening. So no, we don't have a plan B yet, but I have been promised from administration that actually it's going to be the week we come back from February break and March, like bridge blocks in March, just to kind of get people photographed. Because students want them too, you know, like just for school IDs, updated pictures in Aspen, stuff like that. So no plan B because plan A is going to work, hopefully.
All right.
In terms of layout, are you actively trying to like avoid like COVID central like pictures like without masks, or is it just kind of like, you know what, obviously people are going to remember this, let's just rip the Band-Aid off?
So particularly this year's yearbook, you will see some masked photos to be expected. What we're trying to do though is to see like how can we still show people's personality, right? So I'm thinking just in terms like we've already taken all staff photos. So faculty and staff have been photographed. And when we were kind of brainstorming like how are we going to take these? Because like obviously you look at a yearbook because you want to remember people's faces and names and whatnot. So we were like, how can we kind of make it so that we have a little bit of people's personality in it? So we did like serious photos and then a funny one. So I think that it's unavoidable to have pictures of people in masks just given the year. And I think too, like 10 years from now, hopefully we won't still be wearing these. So it'll be kind of cool, like not cool to look back on, but definitely like capturing a moment in time kind of idea. And I think that's what a yearbook is supposed to do, kind of like capture the moment, right? So not that we've been like avoiding them per se, but definitely trying to mix in unmasked photos as well.
Right. That would be pretty weird to look through your yearbook and only see like 1/3 of people's faces.
Yeah, right?
When did you decide that you wanted to be the head of the yearbook committee this year? Was it this year? Was it last year?
So last year, I was co-advisor, I guess you could call it. It was more of like an observational job. Ms. McHugh was the head, and she basically told me, next year I'm not doing this, so if this is something that you're interested in, she knows that I'm very creative and I'm an artist, so she was like, I think this would be right up your alley. So she kind of handed the baton over to me sort of last year, and then was like, next year, this is all you. So I was kind of preparing for this role, and obviously last year not knowing we were going to be stepping into a COVID year and having all of these other things to deal with. But I'm a very flexible person, so I was like willing to take it on still. But yeah, it was kind of like last year transitioning into stepping up full time this year.
How have submissions been? Have they been like lackluster? Do we need more of them?
We need more.
Okay.
So that was one of the things that I had screenshotted. So I feel like it's funny because on my end, I feel like I've been blowing up the senior class with emails being like, send stuff in, please, we need your help. And we've probably gotten like a sprinkle here, sprinkle there. But yeah, so if in terms of the senior class being able to kind of submit things, we set up a Gmail email for people to like send in student art or baby pictures, old photos from clubs, sports, activities, stuff like that. Just because we can use the candids and those are the memories that people want to remember anyway, that we wouldn't necessarily have access to without people sending them in. So yeah, so we have let me just see what the name is. It is ahs21yearbookphotos@gmail.com.
Okay.
And that's what I've been asking mostly students to send in anything that they want to be featured. I mean, obviously we'll kind of go through and look and see what kind of best represents the class as a whole. But the more the merrier being sent in.
Yeah. Gotcha. So in terms of like how the yearbook is actually made, is it all digital? Is it like, how does it work, the process?
So we have, so on the yearbook club right now, there's about 15 of us. Some of them are getting school credit, like independent study credit for it. Others are just kind of joining it as the club. And basically what we did was the first thing that we have to figure out, the book is 144 pages. So very first thing that we had to do was figure out what's going to go on each of those pages and kind of set up, so it's called a ladder diagram. And then once we have what's going on each page, then it kind of transfers. We have this like online portal. It's like a Life Touch yearbook portal. And it's kind of like graphic design, I guess, because you're doing everything is digital. So it's like you can click buttons to go to page. It'll show you a 2-page spread. And once we kind of translate the ladder diagram, so like what's going on each page, into the online portal, then it's just a matter of, okay, now you know what's going on each page, start filling it in with pictures and embellishments and titles and headers and stuff like that. So yeah, online, but we first start pen and paper, getting down like what's actually going in there.
144 pages. How do you fill them all?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so currently I tweeted out on the yearbook Twitter the other day, we officially have, I believe it's 54 pages done, locked in. And like I said, like there are a lot of things that we're waiting for, like class portraits and superlatives is another one. Oh, that's actually another good thing to say. So for seniors, superlative deadlines for the first round, just like putting in like, who do you want to elect for each one? The deadline is this Friday of this week.
Okay, wait, can you just say that specific date? So it's the second
February
right?
5th, right?
Let's see. The deadline, yes, deadline is February 5th. So if you wanted to put in your initial votes for superlative, so this won't be the last one. If you don't do this one, it's not like you can't do it. But just putting in initial votes, deadline 2 p.m. this Friday, February 5th.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, I'm just trying to like wrap my head around, because normally, I mean, we have, pictures from prom, homecoming, another prom, and so many events that we haven't been able to do. I mean, 144 pages. What are you guys trying to do to like, make it stand out and fill it as much as you can?
So I know that 144 sounds like a lot, but once you start filling things in, it like fills up pretty quickly. So currently there's nothing, like we managed to get, even the events that we weren't able to have, we managed to get some pictures. So that's partly because of people submitting them and just people like who like on the yearbook who just had photos from like previous years, stuff like that. And also since I was on yearbook last year, I have access to any of the photos that made it in last year's yearbook. So particularly I'm thinking like pep rally. So I was able to pull pictures from last year's pep rally just so that there wasn't nothing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's like, you want the memories of things that happen, and the yearbook isn't supposed to be just your senior year yearbook, right? It's supposed to be kind of acknowledging your 4 years of high school. So I was like, I feel like people won't be upset if there's some older pictures because that's still your high school experience, you know? So I think in terms of making up for what we're lacking, we've done a really good job, and I think the students on yearbook have been really creative in coming up with, okay, say we don't have enough pictures for Spirit Week and Powder Puff and Pep Rally to fill a 2-page spread, but if we put them on 1 page, then what could we do with the other page? So we've been coming up with like really good ideas for what to do otherwise. So I'm really actually excited for everybody to see them at the end of the year because I do not think that people will be disappointed and it won't look empty at all. So we're making it work.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm really excited for this. I was a little bit skeptical because we were missing a lot of those big events, but the way you're making it sound, it's like, it's good.
No worries.
All right. Now for my final question. I know you got the information pulled up, but what deadlines do seniors and senior parents and anybody who wants to submit photos or be involved in the yearbook, what are those deadlines?
Okay, so if you would like to send in submissions to that, what was the email? ahs21yearbookphotos@gmail.com. So we have also opened it up to the community. We've sent out, I tweeted it out on the yearbook Twitter. I know that Mr. Bourne also sent the little flyer that I made up to some members of the school committee and whatnot, just to kind of get the word out to the community. So all deadline submissions for sending in student art, throwback pictures, baby pictures. We also asked if parents wanted to send in like a congratulatory note to their graduate just to say, hey, we love you, love mom and dad, whomever. Deadline for any of that stuff being emailed into that email is March 1st.
Yeah.
So 1 month from yesterday. So that's the first thing. Second is that for any senior who has not yet had their senior portrait taken, there are a few additional dates coming up. One over February break, if you're not really caring about getting your portrait taken at Island Grove. There's going to be an additional date added if you want to just come to the high school while the school is closed. Life Touch will be setting up on the 18th. So the 18th is an option in February for senior portraits. And the last 2 dates that are out there and available is going to be 2 Saturdays in a row. And this is, again, at the Island Grove location. So if you want like a nice, pretty background, whatever, it's going to be March 13th and March 20th. So those should be open if people want to schedule their portraits for then. And the other deadline coming up having to do with senior portraits is if you want to select your pose, so whatever pose you want to actually appear in the yearbook, that deadline is March 31st. So the end of the month. And let me think, any other deadlines? Not necessarily a deadline, but another thing to know. How do you order your yearbook? So if, again, on my the AHS yearbook Twitter, there is a link to order the yearbook, like if you want to buy it and not have to worry about it later on. It's basically, it's called YB Pay, so like yearbookpay.com. And on the yearbook Twitter, there's like a school ID just to make sure that you're buying the Abington High School yearbook and not somebody else's.
That's important.
So, and I can also send that communication out to the senior class directly to say, hey, if you're looking to buy one, here's the link.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming down and talking to us.
Of course. Thank you for this opportunity to spread the word.
Thanks for watching. Tune in next week for a brand new episode of The Weekly Wave.
And make sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at the Green Gazette and The Weekly Wave.
Stay safe.
Goodbye, everyone.